Here at the World Economic Forum, migration is one of the hot topics. With me is Gideon Rachman, the Chief Foreign Affairs commentator at the FT. Now, you were at the session with the German president. What role does he have and what did he say?
Well, I thought it was quite a surprising session because normally people, particularly presidents, and he's a ceremonial president, it's not an executive presidency, are fairly bland, to be honest. They don't go out of their way to offend, particularly not offend the person who's actually running their own country, in this case Chancellor Angela Merkel. But what President Gauck said was that he thought that Germany will have to set limits on the number of migrants coming into Germany. They took over 1 million last year. He didn't demur when it was suggested to him that there could be 1 million again this year. And he said we have to acknowledge that there's a limit to what our society can do, that there'll be a political reaction. It was really quite a dark view of what was happening, and it was similarly quite confrontational towards Angela Merkel, who has explicitly said that Germany is not in a position to put a numerical limit.
And what difference does that make, do you think, to the German debate? Does this mean that Angela Merkel's now sort of battling to maintain her position in Germany itself?
Well, I think we'll have to see in the coming days how much reaction there is to what Gauck has to say, but the context is that even within Merkel's own centre-right coalition, there's increasing disquiet. There are something like 100 CDU and CSU MPs have signed a document saying that they're not happy with the current drift of policy, and Merkel is under enormous pressure to change. And of course, the very reason she's not here is because this crisis is kind of out of hand. She was going to come and speak, and she doesn't have the time or the energy to do that now.
I mean, it's really interesting because here I was at a session this morning with the head of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, where the IMF were actually trying to put a very positive spin on the immigration debate, saying that this ultimately is good for economies so long as countries do the proper thing and make sure the refugees have access to labour markets. And it struck me as one of these very classic cases where politics and economics are giving rather different giving different steers to countries, and in the end politics wins.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, I think, you're the economist, but it seems to me it's the classic economics line, is migration's good for economies, it grows them, and in fact Gauck in his speech, before he got to the kind of nasty political stuff, was quite careful to preface it all by saying, we acknowledge that, dynamic societies have always been open to immigration. Immigration played a huge role in the Wirtschaftswunder in Germany, the post-war economic miracle. It's been important for Germany, But, and the but is the political and the social but. He said that we are reaching the limit of what our society can bear in terms of integration of immigrants in a social, political sense at a very rapid, it's all a question of scale, but it's a lot of people very quickly, and that's really what he was saying.
Yes, and Germany, let's face it, has taken a lot of people. If it's going to be 2 million in 2 years, that is sort of pretty unprecedented in a modern European democracy.
Absolutely, and also there's this concern about the family reunification element of it, because a lot of these, the majority I think, are unaccompanied men who have a right under international law to then apply for family reunification. So that 1 or 2 million could double, could triple.
And how much emphasis did he put on the sort of the IMF point that ultimately European countries do have an ageing problem? Young men in particular are quite useful to them in the longer term if they can go into the labour market. Was it just a numbers game? This is a limit, this is too much too soon? Or was it, in the end you thought that Germany is basically saying no more?
No, look, he didn't place any emphasis on that, unless I missed that bit. I mean, so there wasn't much economics, but he didn't equally say, this is it. He said we need a limit. We need to give our population some sense of control. And he also looked to the rest of Europe and said, look, Germany can't do this on its own. It has to be shared out amongst Europe. But Germany's been pushing that line for quite a while now, and not with much effect.
Yes, and the IMF also said they wanted a whole European effort, in fact an international effort, and at the moment I don't think we're seeing anyone really jumping on board from the political angle.
No, they declare targets, but then they don't meet them.
Well, that's where it is at the moment here at the World Economic Forum, but this is going to be a subject that runs and runs throughout the week.